I'm Jeremy. Welcome to Live Wire Review. I'm here with Matt today. We're going to be doing a full review on the 2022 Tesla Model 3 Long Range. Now I know we're a little bit late to the party with this one, but it does still factor in because right now you can get a 2023 model for about $6,500 off. So we're going to cover some of the things you need to look out for. And
yeah, the 2024 is kind of a mid-model refresh. You're going to notice a couple of different things, some new lights, a couple of new lines, but overall the vehicle is largely unchanged. So at least the driving experience should be very similar. But I mean, me not owning, not driving, I'm looking forward to actually getting behind the wheel and talking about what I think of this vehicle.
Exactly.
So let's jump into some numbers and then let's go for a drive.
Sounds good. So I'm going to start this off just with the ranges of this vehicle. This one is rated at 573 kilometers. Now that's not a true figure for this. We've taken this on a couple of road trips to the East Coast, and you'll have to check those videos out separately. I went through all the math on the numbers. The realistic range that you can get on this car is about 450 to 457 kilometers on the highway in normal weather. It's pretty standard across the board. My average efficiency since I got this car is 16.4 kilowatt hours per 100, and on the East Coast trip it was 16.6. It's incredibly reliable how steady the numbers are with this car. So that's what you can expect. Now in Canada, this is different in the States. In the States, you still get an 82 kilowatt hour battery, but here in Canada, they switched over to the made in China models. So you're actually gonna get a slightly smaller battery. Now on that one, a real range is about 410, 411 kilometers in real world conditions. That way you're not fooled by the numbers that are given out by Tesla. Now there's a couple of things I want to talk about on this car. It basically has to do with winter and how you're going to protect this vehicle. So it is an all-wheel drive car. It has excellent weight balance and the suspension setup is incredible. So here in the front, we actually have the rad is really low in these vehicles and it's actually on a slant. So here in Canada, you're actually going to build up snow in here and that snow goes up into the rad. It goes through and it catches in the fan. So what I've done is I put a screen in front of here in order to protect that. So if you ever hear noise from the fan, it's actually just ice that's built up inside the fan. That's a known problem with these cars. Another thing you're going to want to watch out for, the front end of the car seems to stand up to rock chips fairly well. But a weak point of these vehicles is because Tesla's a newer manufacturer, the rocker panels are not protected. So I got a PPF coating on here when the car was new and there was no paint damage because of it, including these mud guards here. So this is all in good shape only because of that PPF. On a Tesla Model 3 specifically, this dog leg here actually chips the paint right off. So if you don't get any paint protection here, you're going to be missing your paint. We do have one customer here at Bourgeois Hyundai that actually has the paint missing on the rocker panels here. Another area you're going to have to watch out for is the brake lines come down behind these shields and they go next to the battery all the way down to the front. So you have to find a way to put some rust proofing on this because they're not coated, and some customers in Quebec have actually found the brake lines to rot out fairly early. Now outside of those couple issues where you're going to have to protect the vehicle, I have to say it's incredible in the snow, and it's been an excellent all-weather car and it gets us from A to B. If you're going to get an EV for the first time, this is the car to get. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the numbers. When we purchased this car, we actually were looking at a Model Y, but the price was steadily increasing all the time. And the Model 3 Long Range, the price was staying about the same. So we spent $66,300 on this car in Canadian dollars. That was because the blue paint is a $1,300 option on this car. I know, it's a crazy amount of money to pay for a color, but I really wanted the blue color,
the paint
so
costs have
for
gone
it.
up in Tesla too, have they not? I've seen like $2,000 for certain colors.
Yeah, the red color is $2,500 or $2,600,
yeah.
Whereas the blue and the other option colors are about $1,300. So right now, these cars are actually being sold off if they're inventory cars, and you get about $6,500 off. And another thing that has changed over the last year here in Canada is you can actually get $5,000 off this vehicle. It did not qualify for that rebate when we purchased it, but it does now. So if you add that together, you're about $11,500 off this car. And since I did the math, that means you can pick up after taxes in Canadian dollars for about $63,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's certainly, I mean, it's comparable with other models on the market that have similar numbers. So,
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
certainly makes it a contender, a front-running contender.
Yeah, especially for how far you can go with it. Real world range in the 450 range and all-wheel drive. Okay, So, acceleration-wise, they actually did a software update on these cars a couple of years ago, and it does 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds.
We're gonna test that.
Of course.
When I get a chance here, we'll peel that out. But I mean, just right away, you always get that EV pull just coming off that stoplight there. It's just like, oh yeah, there it is. I love that feeling of getting stuck in my seat every single time.
Now, part of the reason why I waited to do this review on this car is because, one, you don't want to sound like a Tesla fanboy when you do these reviews. I have to be objective and make sure that we're comparing all the cars equally.
Yep.
We have driven so many EVs now that I can comfortably say there's a couple of things about this car I did not notice until I drove other cars. One of them being the suspension. This car is a little bit heavy in the front. It's about 4,000 pounds for this car.
Yeah, you can feel it.
When you go into a corner, it has a Subaru WRX type feel. There is a bit of understeer if you go into a steep corner too fast. So that you got to keep that in mind as you're driving this car. Outside of that understeer though, this chassis is very, very, very well set up. When you take off from a dig, it doesn't spin the tires at all. There's no chirp.
Like I'm about to when this light goes green.
Oh, definitely. Not a chirp, nothing. It plants those tires and it just goes.
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
I was not impressed with that when I got it because I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But now that I've driven all these cars, I can't believe that these cars take off with no chirp.
No, none whatsoever there. It just hooked up and went. I mean, just compare it right off the top of my head to the Aria when we were driving it a few weeks ago. The Aria did really well, but it also took a second when you got into it. It was like, okay, you want 100%, fine.
Yeah.
Let me kind of, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, here we go, let's go now. There was a bit of a lag right there. There was no lag. That was just like, okay, yep, bye.
Yep. And that instant hit of torque and the way it plants that power, I think is the reason why it goes 0 to 60 so quickly. Because it's hard to get power figures on this car. I've pegged it right around 367 horsepower. You can pay for an upgrade, which here in Canada I think is about $2,700, to lower that 0 to 60 time down to 3.7 seconds. I haven't done that. That's a lot of money. But the fact is, I think that adds about 50 horsepower. So take that 367, add 50 horsepower to it, and that's what you get.
Yeah, I mean, just winding it back a little bit to talking about the chassis and such. I understand for aerodynamic purposes you got to be low to the ground, and I can feel exactly what you were saying about this feeling a little nose heavy. The one note I do have, and this is now I've driven a couple of Teslas, I suppose, but I always find that they just ride a little stiff.
They are stiff.
It's just, it's not a bad thing, especially from a sports and performance aspect, or like if I just want to go have fun with it. But I mean, on a longer trip, and you can talk to this because you've spent the time in it, are there days where you're kind of like, oh, I wish this was a little smoother?
Actually, you would be very surprised. So the last trip, we were in this car for 22 hours of our trip. And one thing we noticed is these seats are so well designed. There was absolutely no fatigue. There was no body aches. There was no pressure points on our backs. And both my wife and I noticed this about this car, and we were quite impressed. Now, both my wife and I like stiffer cars, so we've never actually noticed when a car doesn't have a stiff suspension. Part of the reason why you're driving the car today, to see those differences between them.
Yeah, I mean, I like right off the hop, I start to compare it to, and again, this is, I think, largely because of the initial price point, what you were saying that you paid for it, not necessarily what it's worth today.
Yep.
But right in that territory in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to compare this to what a Lexus would ride like, or I'm going to compare this to what even a lower end Mercedes or BMW at that price point,
like a 335 Xi kind of deal.
Exactly, and in my head, in like a comfort type category, I'm like, I think I would enjoy a Lexus on a longer drive a little nicer.
Suspension-wise, yes.
Suspension-wise, yes. That's the only thing I'm talking about here. It's just feeling every little bit of the road. Now, again, from a fun standpoint, I love that translation. I love being able to feel every little bump as I go over it and know exactly where I'm at. But from just an overall standpoint, I kind of like that little bit of plushness.
Yeah. Which is where the Kona came into play there, but the Kona had the problem with the lift in the front end. It wasn't as refined. This one only has a bit of understeer. It's the only really complaint that I had.
Yeah, you don't get that lift in the front end in this thing at all.
There's no lift.
Like,
And it's part of the way the car is set up. So we have Ioniq 5s, Ioniq 6s where we work.
Yes.
And the way they design their drivetrain, the battery and everything's in the middle like it should be. But the rear motor is specifically hanging over the back axle. The way this one is designed is both the motors, they actually have the motor in the front. So the weight balance in this car is more like a mid-engine sports car. I know it's not. It's down low in the ground. It's totally different design.
Yeah.
But all the weight is where it needs to be in this car, ahead of the tires.
Being this is one of the first times I've driven this type of a car, or a Tesla in general, for a while. Part of me was like, I'm not gonna like having everything over here on my right-hand side, but just in a short drive, I like that all my information is just clustered right here. It's no different than having to drop my vision into the steering wheel to look at a cluster. It's just right there instead of right there. Initially, I think it was just me being a little bit of a grumpy old man, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna hate that. Why you have to move that to the center stack? But I think that you get over that really quick when you get in this thing.
Within the first week, you're used to this car. The first 2 days you drive it, it's a bit of a learning curve. But after you've gotten used to it, you're right. All the information's right there. And everything you use when you're driving is available by the steering wheel. The only thing that was a little bit of an issue was the wipers. So through different updates, they've put a wiper here at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, I see that.
You press the end of the button on the stock, also brings up the wiper menu. And they've added a third one recently. The scroll wheel on the left-hand side, you can program it to also bring up your wipers. But it was a little clunkier than I thought it should be. You have to hold down the button to bring up the menu. Now, when I want my wipers, I want them right away. So the quickest way is to actually just hit the wiper button on the side of the stock, and your menu comes up on the screen right away. So you can do your quick adjustments on the drive. It's the only thing that's not intuitive is that you have to bring up a menu to change that. Outside of that, your cruise control is a click down of the stock. All your radio presets and your distances between cars are set with the 2 scroll wheels. So everything you need is right there. It's just the wipers, take a press of the button.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And yeah, it's certainly not in a poor position whatsoever.
But yeah, the cruise control is super easy to use in this one. Press it down once and it locks your speed. And
So
you actually
this
have
guy?
it set in a menu.
Oh, I see it there.
You just push it down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so one push down gets your cruise. Now, I've set it up in such a way that it's about 10 over the limit. So whatever the speed limit is that it picked up on the side of the road is how your cruise control is going to work.
Yeah, that was interesting because it kind of just took off there on me and I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, because that's because of my settings. So you can set it to whatever you like. And since I use cruise control so often, I set it to 10 over because that's how I drive.
Fair enough. That's an interesting... This is the kind of car, and... I drive a variety of what I will call economical cars, and in other terms, beaters. And they are the bare bones, base of the base, cheapest of the cheap. So I'd actually have to sit down with this car and spend some time learning all these different features. And not to say any of this is a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's once.
Exactly.
Only one time.
I'd have to actually sit down and learn all these different things, because there's a lot going on here that even just in a short drive, I'm like a little overwhelmed. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that one. I'm like, where's this? What's that? What are you talking about? Oh, that button. Okay, give me a minute.
Now, if you ever find yourself in that situation because you're unfamiliar with this car, if you press down this button, you have voice commands. And those voice commands actually run through Google. So unlike most cars, this car actually picks up on your voice fairly well. It's still a little clunky to do it that way. But the gist of it is most of the things in this car are automatic. The temperature's automatic. It detects who gets in the car. So if you sat in the driver's seat and I wasn't here, the heat's only going to be on your side, so you don't have to think about that. When you get in this car, all your settings are pre-saved. When your phone is picked up, it automatically sets it to you. It sets your seat and everything, your radio presets. So even getting out of this car, you literally get out of the car and you walk away and the door's locked. There's nothing to think about.
Exactly.
So when I walk up to my car at the end of the day, it's already cooled down or warmed up to the temperature I like, which is GPS. It's tagged via GPS. That's the best way to say it. So when I'm at work, it's set to warm up by 5 o'clock. And when I leave my house, it's set to be warm at 7 a.m. It's super convenient.
I love the way this thing takes off. Pull a U-turn. This does have quite the tight turning circle. I do appreciate that. All right. Woohoo, doggy. So Jeremy's just out of the car getting some additional shots. Always love being able to, it's always tough to drive the car when the person that owns the car is in the car. So Jeremy, I apologize, but I went really fast around these couple of corners when you weren't looking. But oh my goodness, does this thing ever just plant? And it doesn't. I feel the understeer for sure. It's an interesting push though with the way the suspension's set up. It really just kind of grabs and it just kind of floats through the corner. I almost feel like, I don't want to say I'm on a rail because that's a little disingenuous, but it almost feels like it's biting edge. It's like you're on your skates and it just grabs a hard edge and it just sticks you and it holds and it doesn't really roll. It doesn't really flop. Like I said, the understeer for sure, but barely present, barely. So I'll get caught up to this traffic here. Get out of there. There we go. All right. So this is a recommended 30-kilometer-an-hour corner. I think I can do it a little faster than that. So let's hit it, shall we? Here we go. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Alrighty, so I got nobody on the road here. We're gonna do a 0 to 60. You'll see the outside shot as well. All right, everybody ready? Here we go. And 60, 75, Jesus. It went so damn fast I almost friggin' missed it. Holy cow. Woo! I would really like to see what my face looks like there because I think my eyes bugged out of my head pretty quick when I took that off. Holy cow. That's insane. And the fact that you can just pay a little more money, so to speak, and get that much more performance is pretty bonkers.
So how'd you find the handling in that S-curve back there?
I can't, I'm flogging a dead horse with this one. It just sticks. It plants, it grabs, and it just slices around that corner. It's not like anything I've ever felt, to be honest. Like lots of sports cars with that suspension, sure, but like this is just, for an on-road daily driver, it's insane.
Yeah, and with fairly basic suspensions, it's just got regular coil springs, regular shocks, and it has an open differential front and rear. Yep. So I'd love to see some torque vectoring in the future because it's very easy technology to put into a car. But in Tesla's defense, they like to make things cheap. They remove parts from the car. They took radars out. They replaced it with software. They like to do everything software-based. The only other gripe is this is the long range, so you don't get to do what the performance does. There's no track mode in this one. So you can't really slide it out and have fun with it, but it sticks.
Yeah.
So they changed a couple of things on the new Highland version of this car that's coming out soon. On this one, the console was changed a couple of years ago and they added the heat pump. Those are the two biggest changes you're going to want to look out for. So if you're looking for one of these cars and you're in the used market, do a 2021 plus. But in 2021, the panel gaps are still a little bit off, so check over the car fairly well. But I would recommend one of these cars, 2021 and above. The new Highland car that's coming out, they've removed the stocks on it, and they've replaced it with the turn signal like in the Model X. I drove the Model X recently. I can tell you the turn signal thing does not work very well. I'm not looking forward to that. If you have to change lanes right after you've done a left-hand turn, it just doesn't work. You can't do it while the steering wheel is turned. So I did mention that this is an excellent A to B vehicle, and we have taken it to the East Coast twice. So some of the things we've noticed with this car, you cannot fit 3 car seats across the back. I've already done that test. I'll just show you some B-roll here of me fitting them in the back. But it does fit 3 kids very comfortably. There is a way you could fit 3 car seats back there, but 2 comfortably and a booster seat in the middle. That's doable. I carry 3 kids in the back of this car all the time. Our entire family fits in here. And one nice thing about the glass in the back is a 6'1" adult can actually fit in the back with a little bit of headroom still there. And the seats are fairly comfortable. It's just in the back, you're gonna find your knees are up a little bit higher.
So we're on our way back now, and I think overall, the biggest impression I take away from driving one of these things is I really like the interior. I love that it doesn't try to show off, if that makes sense. It's comfortable, it's elegant, everything is right where I want it to be. Ergonomically speaking, it's in, everything is right where I need it to be.
Yeah.
The driving position is comfortable. These pillars are a little big for my liking as far as a blind spot goes, but I mean, you've got the camera system to make up for that, so with a little bit of balance there, it's not a big deal. Besides that, though, just comfortable, like you said, A to B car. Yeah, I can see this being an A to B car.
Yeah, I actually replaced my Mustang GT with this car, so it had to check a lot of boxes. And to go 0 to 60 with that low amount of horsepower, I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go really fast around one more bend, and then we'll tell you what we think of this thing in the end. So 40 kilometers an hour is the suggested. I'm only doing 65. Yeah.
Nah, push a little harder. Oh, I love that. Well, we're coming to the end of this video. We've taken this for a drive. We've taken it to the East Coast. It makes an excellent A to B vehicle. I highly recommend this car, and I just want to get Matt's thoughts on the end here.
It's an absolute blast to drive these things. The handling, the overall performance, obviously the convenience of that supercharging network, as well as just being, you know, the forefront of this EV landscape that we see every single day here. Honestly, with the price drops, the way that they've been going, this is becoming a more and more attractive option at that price point to get into a vehicle like we discussed earlier. And maybe this is the one for you. You jump in, you start with the best, so to speak. And I put that in air quotes because there's no best car, in my opinion.
No, there's no best car, but this really ticks all the boxes for what we use it for, and it's just an incredible all-around A to B car.
Regardless of what we think, though, jump down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Would you buy one or would you leave it? And always, you know, let us know what else you would like to see us test here at Livewire Review.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.